I want to emphasize that this is not a typical classroom course. We're trying to reproduce as much as possible the experience of being in the field. Obviously, it's not the same, but we're trying to make it as field-oriented as possible. So let's go back to the little globe here and select the next scene, which is labeled Channel Complex Set A, Stage 1. So welcome to the field. Now what I'm going to do is just quickly run through some of the fasces, and then I'm going to ask you to make some interpretation. You can see how laterally inconsistent these things are and how variable they are. See that sand there? It's visible all the way across this. Okay, so go and put some lines on this. And you may want to interpret some small bits of it in detail and zoom out and get the big picture, but do at least some of the big picture if you don't mind. So probably a lot of these sand bodies here are just remnants of what were once much more extensive sands that have been eroded away by subsequent flows that have moved gravel over the top of them.
Okay, what I could see here, it was just main channel complex system over here would be probably the erosional lower surface of this, and there's some same type of bypass deposits you were mentioning, since it's very conglomeratic, looks like. And then there's another system right here. This is the kind of the lower boundary again.
So I think you can use this as analogous to some sandy systems, but I want to stress that even in gravelly systems, they're not all the same. So you've got to be very careful about using anything as a direct analog for anything else. If you look in detail here, you can see this surface there. Cutting down through these thin beds. And actually, this is an injection into the thin beds.
I'm gonna request another interpretation, or anybody wants to volunteer. It's actually a very simple exercise.
So there's the basal one that I saw as the kind of the master scour, and that goes all the way out here, and there's a pinch out here laterally at the far end. Then there's another fairly major scour internal to that. It's like at that level. And then a third one up here that's not as deeply cutting, but looks like it cuts down in two places, here and there.
And that's just the levee system we saw earlier on our second assignment. So it's the external levee. And when we come here, we have some discussion whether this is an extensional fault or the thrust, but it's undecided. But on a larger scale, we can see that the system seemed to carry over towards this side. We can continue that observation.
Depending on what part I look at, I could almost see all possibilities. I see some regular bedded, so like say the overbank. Some of this is very poor net to gross and like a given 8-meter interval. So if I looked at this little bit or this little bit, I think I was more distal. But then let's say in this part right here, it's like 50% net to gross. So there I think I'm more proximal.
But yes, we have some more thicker beds between the thinner ones. So I think we are actually in a terrace environment. I don't know if Ben want to say something else for finishing all this. Thank you, Jim.